Thank you, Bob. Welcome, everyone. I am Loren McDonald with Silverpop. If you were tweeting today, at Loren McDonald, and there's a hashtag that apparently is taking off called Don't Kill Hamsters, so you might use that as well. Send a blast, kill a hamster. Meet Mesocracetus auroritus, hamster. For the next 30 minutes, this is your customer. Isn't she cute? Isn't she cute? Isn't this hamster cute? Anybody? No? That's a cute hamster. But how do we show this cute hamster your customer love? You pound, pound, pound. You pound these customers to death with messages. In the US, if you're a retail marketer, you send more than 200 email messages to your customers, to that cute little hamster, every year. That's 4 per week on average. Many of you are sending 5 and 6 already, but on average, 4 per week. That's one broadcast email message every 1.8 days. During the holiday season, because email rocks and works so well, we send even more. We typically send more than 1 email every day, right? This is an example from one retailer in my inbox. Between Thanksgiving and the post-Christmas period, right, more than 50 emails in 44 days, right? Does this look familiar to anybody, right? Most of you do this, right? And why do we do this, right? Why do we pound that cute little customer with email marketing messages? Because it works. It frickin' rocks. It works, right? It's easy money. Send an email, it generates revenue. Hopefully a few of you have seen this movie, know this scene, right? I updated it a little bit. Every time an email dings, an email marketer, a retail marketer gets her wings. How many of you in this room have been in a situation where the VP of e-commerce, C-level executive comes in and says, we didn't hit our revenue targets last week, this month, whatever. Can you send another email? Right? Anybody have that experience? Raise your hands. Come on, don't be bashful. Yeah, like almost every one of you in this room. Right? Email works. It works exceedingly well. It's like crack cocaine for most of you. But are you headed towards more than 1 email per day on average? Some of you are probably already there, pretty close, right? I've talked to several people the last couple of days. Many of you are already sending 5, 6. I'm just talking broadcast messages, we're not talking the other automated, triggered, segmented messages, just broadcast messages. I mean, how sustainable is this, right, to get to the point where you're sending your customers a broadcast email every day on average? You know, a couple years ago, you were sending about 2 or 3, then now you're at 4, right? This is where this is going, but is it sustainable, right? It's fine, we have to do it. We need to make revenue, it works. But there's a downside to it as this continues to escalate. Have you done the math? So let's take a database of 500,000, 500,000 subscribers. Let's use this 4 emails per average per week. That's 200 emails annually again. Let's go with a 0.25% unsubscribe rate. That's pretty conservative. About the average for most companies is about 0.2%. If you're really aggressive, you're heading towards 0.4, 0.5%. So I'm going with about 0.25%, right, assuming that you're a little bit more aggressive. That's 1,250 lost emails for every email you send. That email is generating a lot of revenue for you when you send it. But the downside is every one of those you can predict is going to generate a certain percentage of unsubscribes. I meet with a lot of retail clients, and this is coming up a lot. I never heard this so much. The problem has always been there, but it's never been as vocalized with retail clients I'm meeting now. I was meeting with one in New York a couple months ago, and they sat down, and he was literally scared. The client was literally scared. Every email I send generates between 1,500 and 2,500 unsubscribes. I don't know if this is sustainable, right? And in this example, it's 250,000 lost subscribers on a database of 500,000, right? That's half of your database is gone in a year from this amazing channel called email marketing. Ouch, it's painful. Think of the money you spent acquiring those subscribers and customers. And then every time you send a message, you're driving a ton of them away. That's part of the channel, is people have the power in email to unsubscribe. That's part of the deal. But it's really expensive to reacquire those people, right? Think about it if you have a goal. Think if you're this marketer that has a 500,000 database, and your goal is to increase it to 650,000, right? If you have a program like this, not only do you have to acquire that 150,000 new subscribers, you have to reacquire the 250,000 that you drove away this year, right? So this is always going to be there, right? But we're making it crazy, right? So this approach, this batch and blast, this broadcast email approach works exceedingly well. But I like to refer to it as a hope strategy, right? Every time you push that send button and you send a message, you hope that it drives a lot of revenue, and you also hope that it doesn't drive a lot of unsubscribes. But you have to ask yourself, do I feel lucky? Well, do you, retail marketers? Do you feel lucky? Because that's what you're doing. You're marketing based on hope and luck. You're hoping that when you send that message out, that a bunch of people are going to buy. So remember this cute little customer? Some of you thought she was cute. I guess not all of you thought she was cute. I think she's cute. But after you pound the hell out of her every year, at some point, she starts to get a little tired and worn out. She gets a little ragged, right? You've been spinning her around on that hamster wheel, right? So how many of you want to be known as hamster killers, right? I want to see the hands. Who wants to be known as a hamster killer? Oh, it's hard to see. It looks like nobody's raised their hand. Good. We're making progress here. Let's stop killing those hamsters. So it's time for a change. But many of us are marketing still like it's 1999, right? If any of you have kids, PT Cruiser, slap a loser. You know that, right? PT Cruiser, slap a loser. We're marketing like it's 1999, right? We have the technology. It's time to come into the modern age and leverage the current marketing technology and approaches. There's a way for us to stop killing the hamsters, to stop killing and driving away our customers, and generate more revenue, potentially even send more email or less, depending upon how the situation necessitates. The time has come for behavioral marketing automation. The concept of behavioral marketing automation has three components to it in my world: leveraging customer behavior, automation to drive those messages, and lastly, in real time. It's about using behavior to drive messaging cadence, right? It's not just about pushing the send button and crossing those fingers. It's actually using the signals that your customers are sending you, that behavior, to help drive the majority of your messaging cadence. It's about talking to each customer at an individual level, that one-to-one goal that we've been talking about for the last 15 years. The goal is to create a segment of one, to speak to those customers at an individual level. That's what we've heard a lot on the previous panel and Bob's opening session. It isn't just about big data, right? But it's about actionable data, small data. It's about leveraging the data that you're collecting across your customers, all that behavior at an individual level, and making it actionable. Big data is great, but if you can't, as an individual marketer with a staff of a couple of people, if you can't act on that data in real time at the individual level, it's worthless. So the hope of big data is great, but we need to make that data small, and we need to make it actionable in real time for the individual. But the challenge is, and we heard this, the guy with ETail Partners was just talking about this, right? The need to kind of bring this data together. This data is everywhere, right? There's behavioral data across multiple different channels, categories, stores, everything. And for most of you, there's probably at least 50, 75, 100 different types of customer and subscriber behavior that you can leverage, right? I threw up a bunch here. It's everything from they purchased, they didn't purchase. They opted into your program. They downloaded your website app. They abandoned a shopping cart. They browsed your site. They clicked an email. They used some reward points. They didn't use some reward points. Right? Walked into a store, right? On and on and on, right? 50, 75, there's hundreds of different types of behavior that you're currently tracking that you can leverage to automate and trigger messages back to these people. This requires a shift in thinking. This requires, again, this is what the gentleman was talking about. We've been talking about this for years, but now is the time we have to move to the concept of a centralized marketing database, right? Where you can bring all those different 50, 75, 100 behaviors from your e-commerce system, from your website, from your mobile apps, CRM, wherever it is. So you can bring all of those behaviors about those individual customers into a single marketing database so you can look at them in a single unified way and trigger responses off to them based on their behaviors. It also requires a little bit of a shift in thinking to what customers want to buy, not just what we want to sell them, right? That's always going to be there. That's always going to be a big part of your job and role as a retail marketer, right? Is to drive people to buy things that they don't necessarily know that they need, right? Or you have inventory you have to close out. That's always going to be a big part of what you do from broadcast, email, and other sort of batch and blast approaches. And they talked about this a lot on the previous panel, but what we really need to get to, right, is understanding that individual customer and marketing to them based on what we know that they want to buy or what we think they want to buy. It requires another shift. It requires a shift on top of just this calendar-based approach that we use for marketing, right? I've got 4 of those emails, broadcast emails I have to get out this week. So your creative team, your content, your offers, merchandising, everybody gets together and go, okay, what are we going to sell on Thursday? What are we going to sell on Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, whatever it is. And we come up with these broadcast marketing messages and plan them out based on the calendar. Again, that's always going to be there. That's always going to be part of your program. But the shift that we need to make is moving more towards this behavior-based approach, where you literally might have 50 different automated messages go out every single day, right, based on those customer interactions. So you have to rethink your creative structure, your organization. You have to think about how you leverage that data. You have to think, again, you're going to always do those calendar-based programs, but the real opportunity is to move much more to this behavior-based approach. The only way you can get there is through automation, right? You think about those different messages. You couldn't sit down and have your team get together and create all those different messages manually each day, right? The only way you can get there, you can get scale, these 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 marketing messages, automated messages go out, is through automation. I like to refer to this concept as low volume, high ROI, right? Broadcast messages, high volume, low ROI, right? You send out that message to 500,000 people, you're going to get whatever, 1% conversion rate, less than that, whatever it is, but the math works, the revenue works because you're sending it to so many people. The flip to that is through using behavior and automated messages is those messages might only, a single message might only go to 50 people or 500 or 1,000, a small number of people. But because it's sent in real time and it's sent based on their behavior, some action they took or didn't take, the ROI, the conversion rates can be off the charts, right? Most of you in this room are doing cart abandonment programs. We have a lot of clients that literally get 50% conversion rates off of cart abandonment remarketing programs, right? Because they're so relevant and timely, right? But you don't necessarily send a lot of those out every day, right? So that's where you get into the low volume aspect. This is a chart from one of our clients, a retailer, that if you look at their annual volume, they send out of their annual email volume, 88% of their volume is that broadcast batch and blast program. 12% of it is triggered automated messages. But the revenue from that 12% is 30%, right? Again, it's that low volume, high ROI. And so the more you can drive in building up these automated programs, while you're still growing your revenue from your broadcast, you can add on top of that and really explode your top line growth from adding off these automated messages on top of your broadcast programs. And when they started this kind of transition about 4 years ago, those automated messages comprised about 2% of their annual email volume and about 1% of their revenue. But as they've scaled it up from a few messages to now more than 50 automated messages they have that go out every day, right? That volume went up 6x, but the revenue from those automated messages went up 30x, right? So it's amazing leverage to move to automation. The last component of this concept of behavioral marketing automation is the real-time aspect of it. A few years ago, actually it was like more than 30 years ago, when I was in college, I wanted to be a photojournalist. And one of my favorite photographers was the French photographer Henri Cartier-Bresson. And he came up with this concept called the decisive moment. And I actually have this print of this hanging up in my den. But I love this photograph. If you look at this photograph closely, and at one level it's not very interesting, right? It's a man jumping across some rainwater with an ugly fence and some stuff you can hardly tell in the background. But if you really look closely, what's going on and why this is an amazing photograph is the shadow. This man is jumping across what looks to be from a ladder or stuff, laying down in some water, and you see the shadow. And that's, if you're into photography, you get this. This is an amazing photograph. And why is it an amazing photograph? It's because of this concept that he created called the decisive moment. This wasn't luck. He knew, he was able through experience to understand when to click that shutter, right? When to take this photograph. A decisive moment. And I think as marketers, retail marketers, e-commerce marketers, that's really our opportunity as well. Right? Is to understand what's that decisive moment when a customer or prospect is headed down the purchase path, and when is the right time to touch them with a message or messages or series of messages to get them to convert to buy, right? The decisive moment. It's about timing. It's the old cliche, right time, right message, right? It's the decisive moment. So that's the third component of this wheel that we're talking about here. So what does this behavioral marketing automation concept thing look like, Loren? I am so glad you asked. So let's start. I'm going to walk through a couple of examples to try to bring this to life. And they're not going to be super sophisticated. I like to dumb things down and make them simple so everybody can walk away from here today and go, I'm going to stop killing hamsters. I can do this thing, Loren. Thank you. So the first concept is marrying pre-opt-in web behavior with email address. This concept I call Welcome 2.0 or onboarding. So here's a site, retail site, where I sell clothing, jewelry, shoes, home decor. It's a lot of different category items, right? I get to your site from a Google search, whatever, and I come to your site and I spend all of my time browsing around the furniture section of your website. Chairs, bedding. That's my interest. I don't look at anything else. I don't look at clothing. I don't look at anything else. I'm not ready to buy, however. Right? I'm really interested in your site. I like what I see. I like your products. You've got great content. For whatever reason, I'm not ready to purchase yet. But I like the value proposition. You serve up a popover, whatever it is. I decide to opt in your email program. I want to get messages, offers, content, relevant information from you. So I opt in to your email program. But then what do? Probably 99.9% of you in this room do this. You send a generic welcome email. Right? You send out a welcome email. It says, welcome to our program. Thanks for opting in. Hope you love it. Here's what we're going to talk about. If you're really good, it's a little bit more sophisticated, you send a series. You send 2, 3, 4, 5 series of welcome emails, and you're onboarding them. Second, third emails, whatever it might say, download our app. Another one might say, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, etc. Whatever. One of them might say, join our loyalty program. You're moving them down the sort of onboarding path. But the problem is, that's great, you're using best practices, but you're speaking to them, everybody, exactly the same way. You're talking to them generically. And yet, you have this behavior on them, right? They looked at furniture, home decor. So what happens? I'm done with your generic welcome email. I go into your broadcast program. What's the first email I get? Jackets. First email you send me is about jackets. I have no interest in jackets. Oops. It's not just a bad customer experience. The important thing here is you maybe lost a customer, right? You had an opportunity to leverage that behavioral data and speak to this customer based on their behavior. So let's roll back. Right. I looked at this furniture. So you're using web tracking, right? You're tracking who these people are anonymously. You're tracking their web behavior. They're looking at furniture. Then they opt in. You're marrying that anonymous person's web behavior now with their email address. We can now message these people now that we've married up their email address with their pre-opt-in web behavior. And instead, right, we can take this onboarding email, and using dynamic content, right, we can personalize this single email or this series of welcome onboarding emails based on that pre-opt-in behavior. So in this case, I'm pulling in not just whatever the standard image was, product image in my welcome email that I created 18 months ago, but it's real time, it's dynamic. I'm pulling in category items from that furniture category that I looked at, bedding, chairs, etc. And related to that, then I'm using my recommendation, right? And I have a dynamic content block where I'm pulling in recommendations from my recommendation engine based on that category, top sellers. And then I might put you into a 3 or 5 or 4 or 2 onboarding series, right, where maybe I change up the offers along that process. And before I put you into the broadcast program, I'm going to give you my best offer, right, and hope that I can convert you out of the gate. This is all planned. It's all based on behavior. And then I throw you into that broadcast program, and you're back to your hope strategy. But out of the gate, you're timely when these people have said, I'm interested in furniture. Maybe I just wasn't rated by whatever. You can now hopefully convert many of those people. Let's move on to the second example. Very similar to the concept of remarketing based on browse behavior, right? Very simple idea, except in this example, the people are already an existing customer, right? So you have lots more behavior about them. And again, as I mentioned a minute ago, if you're already doing cart abandonment remarketing, it works amazingly well. But the problem with cart abandonment remarketing is amazing and great as it is, how many people abandon a shopping cart every day versus visit your website and browse around and then leave, right? The difference is huge. This is the idea about if you're already doing cart remarketing, move up the funnel. So I come to a bicycle site, go to the home page, and I browse around the bike racks for my car aspect of the site. And again, an example is, I already know who you are. I have your email address. I marry up that web behavior. Now what I do is I send off in real time, within an hour, within 24 hours, whatever it is, a browse remarketing email to try to get me to come back and convert. But again, it's not generic. It's not just come back, hey, we saw you sniffing around our website, here's an offer. It's based on that actual web behavior and other behavior that I know about you. So yes, you're going to pull in specific category of product items into the email that I looked at. You're going to pull in product recommendations, top sellers that are related to that. But also, more importantly, you're going to try to convert that person perhaps with some kind of an offer, but instead of just a generic offer for everybody, what if that person is a member of your rewards program? And so you decide instead of giving them free shipping or a discount or a percentage off, you're going to give them additional points for the rewards, right? What if they've never ever purchased from you? Maybe you say, we really want to try to convert these people, we'll give them 20% off. Maybe there's somebody that purchases regularly and we don't want to over discount because we know they might purchase anyway, so we give it lower. The idea is to leverage that other data and not give away the store, right? Target those people dynamically with the right offer based on what we know about them. Birthday email. Loren, birthday email is not a behavior-based email. You're absolutely right. Birthday email is an event-based email. But we're going to even reinvent it here today on stage into a behavior-based email. How many of you in this room deploy birthday email programs? Raise your hand. So a fair number of you, but not enough of you. It's like maybe 25% or whatever. There's a reason about 75% of you don't do birthday email programs. It's really simple. You're not capturing birth dates or birth months, right? You can't do a birthday program without that information. But birthday emails are probably the easiest automated email program you could ever do. It requires 3 things: birthday or month, email address, and some sort of creative and content, right? But if you don't have that birthday, you can't do it. But let's assume you do. This is probably what your message looks like. My birthday is in a couple of weeks, and I've started getting those birthday months. A lot of people do not birthday day, but they do birth month kind of birthday messages. And every one of them is the same. Yes, the creative's a little bit. Some people use a birthday cake. Some people use candles. Some people use a present like this one. Some people use $10 off. Some people do 15. Some do 10%. But they're all the same. I have no idea how I'm going to use that offer. That's great that you're wishing me a happy birthday and you're giving me some kind of an incentive. But help me out here, folks. Help me out. Help me figure out how to spend that great offer. Don't just send me a generic offer. Help drive me down to make that purchase. So what if instead, and you're going, Loren, okay, we get this now, right? You know what I'm going to say. So now what you do is you populate that birthday email with dynamic content. So in this case, you're going to pull in, for example, maybe a product item that I had in my shopping cart or in my wish list. You're going to pull in items that I browsed in the past few weeks or whatever, right? And if customers who don't have any sort of recent activity or whatever, obviously you'll have your kind of default items and stuff. But you're taking this birthday message, this generic one-size-fits-all birthday message that does really well, right? Birthday emails are like printing cash. They work so well. Everybody loves a birthday email. But we're leaving money on the table by not helping people understand how to spend that 10% off or $15 off. Let's help those people figure out how to spend that incentive. And then, of course, all the other things I've talked about, right? You can dynamically change up that offer, that incentive, based on, are they one of your best customers? Are they a new customer? Have they never purchased from us, right? Use the data you have. Build these messages dynamically on the fly. This is where we're going with email marketing. Again, the broadcast message is always going to be there, but we have the technology now to basically have these emails be built literally almost on the fly by pulling in different data points and content and messaging in these different content blocks. I've been talking about email marketing. But whoa, Loren, this is not just about email. It's about all your channels. This BMA, behavioral marketing automation thing, is done across all of your channels: website, SMS, display, social, mobile. So let's take mobile apps. If you have a mobile app, you can do the same thing. I open up my mobile app, log in. What do I see? Not just whatever you're trying to sell that day, but you actually have this dynamic content block in your mobile app where, again, you're going to pull in something that might be in my cart or in my wish list, or maybe a category that I browsed recently. Maybe a while back I purchased a replenishable item, like this HP cartridge. Aha, that signals potential replenishment opportunity, right? Let's serve up an offer to get me to come back and repurchase that item, right? And I may not have purchased it in the app. I may have purchased it online or in a store, right? But you're marrying my purchase behavior across any channel. And in this case, since I'm engaging with your brand in a mobile app, that's where you're serving it up. Or maybe you have physical stores, and I haven't been to your store in a while, so you're going to serve up a lapsed customer offer to try to drive me into the store. The opportunities are unlimited to leverage this data, right? Again, you could serve up content based on the fact, as we talked about it, they talked about in the previous panel. The biggest problem with mobile apps is most people, 25% of all people download it, open it once, and never again, right? So that's where you get in the opportunity to market to people based on how often they do or don't use it, send them emails to drive them back, right? That deep linking, push notifications. Sort of the opportunities are unlimited to leverage this data in apps. My last example is something that I think that was also touched on in the panel, but this is here today. It's very cool. It's the idea of marrying mobile apps with geofencing and what we refer to as universal behaviors. Being able to pull that behavior from your customer across any channel back and make it actionable. So I'm Jake Rollins. I'm an online and offline customer. I've also downloaded and used your mobile app, right? I have a multi-channel, omni-channel relationship with you. I need to buy a necklace for my wife. I walk into your store, your physical store, and guess what happens? Because I've downloaded your mobile app and I've given you permission to send me notifications, etc., I walk into your store and you've set up a geofence. I trigger that geofence. It goes and it pulls from the marketing database and sends an email alert to the associates that are working in your physical store. And they get this alert that looks like this. So as I walk into the store, I'm standing there at the POS system on my mobile app as an associate, and I get this alert. Shows me a picture of Jake, gives me a bit of information about him, shows me what he's purchased, what he's browsing on the website. I'm armed with a lot of information now. This is this concept we've all been talking about merging and bridging the digital world and the physical world. It's here today. Now, as the sales associate in your physical store, I can engage that customer not only by his or her name, but I can also understand, based on what this person has purchased in the past, what they browsed recently, whatever, I can help drive Jake to making the right purchase and successfully increase the revenue for our company. So what's it going to be? Are we going to continue to be the PT Cruiser slap-a-loser world? Are we going to continue to market like it's 1999? Or are we going to embrace this technology and this data that we have today? And you leverage the latest technology and approaches. So 3 things I want you to remember today about behavioral marketing automation and this concept of stopping killing our hamsters, right? Let's leverage the behavioral data that you're capturing. And let's take that data and let's use automation to scale it and message out those offers, those messages, those content people at the decisive moment, right? At the right time. So jump in, the water is warm with behavioral marketing automation and paved with gold. Come by and visit us at booth number 600 and ask us questions about how to stop killing hamsters. Thank you very much.
We have 1 or 2 minutes for questions.
I think we have time for some questions. If there are any questions, how to stop
There's
killing.
One over
There's
here.
One over there.
Oh.
Could you tell us a little bit more about some innovative ways of increasing your identification rate for remarketing emails?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit. I heard remarketing emails. I didn't hear before that.
Could you tell us about some innovative ways for increasing your identification rate?
Okay, increasing identification rate for remarketing emails. Well, I mean, one is obviously to leverage what we call web tracking, but you know, every vendor has sort of a different name for it. For the first thing is just to make sure that you're using that sort of tracking code across all of your channels and stuff. So at one level, you're capturing those people from an anonymous level, and then making it obviously, in this case, I'm talking mostly about email, making sure that you make it easy for them to sort of opt in your program so you can marry that up. And so make sure you're doing it again across, you know, your website, your cart. You're also doing it in the mobile app, right? And then, you know, it's the easy part, I think, is capturing that abandonment behavior, right? The real key is figuring out the timing and how you can get those people to come back and convert and what that offer is going to be. So I think that's kind of the sort of the bigger part of it. But and those remarketing emails, again, are not limited to abandonment. Unless they're just browse and cart, but they're obviously the concepts of like replenishment, right? Repurchase, somebody's purchased a year ago, all those kinds of things. You can set up all of those programs really easily.
There's one over. There's one right here. Loren? Right here?
Yep.
Somewhat of a follow-up question. Do you have an average percentage or percent we should target when we start doing that email capture?
Again, it's hard to hear, but was the question a percent of your automation programs that should be your overall program?
Sorry, no, the percent of people that opt in. So out of your web visitors,
Oh, right.
how much percent would actually give you the email address?
But if again, I'm having trouble hearing you, but if I heard you right, it was what is the sort of percentage of people that opt in from your website? So, yeah. I mean, it varies widely. I hear a lot of people, it can be like 20%, 30%, something like that. So I think that's something that you obviously have to sort of figure out and how to track, but it's obviously nowhere near 100%. But again, that's where the sort of this concept of the low volume, high ROI, but the more you can sort of capture and marry up the, whether it's email address or SMS, whatever it is, at that sort of initial stage, right? Make it easy for people to opt in when they first come to your website. You can greatly kind of increase that marriage for remarketing.
And that's all that we have time for. Thank
Okay,
you,
great.
Loren.
Great, thank you very
Loren.
much.